The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
However, Alpha hears them mention this on satellite cameras. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger. It's been a while, hasn't it? And as you can see, some things have changed around me. This time, I haven't just changed rooms in my house, I actually moved towns. Not far, just about 30 minutes to the east, but living here has already given me some really fun opportunities, and more of them are on the horizon. But yeah, the past couple of weeks I've been moving and unpacking and trying to settle in, so my review of the following material is not quite as timely as I wanted it to be. However, I know there's many of you out there that want to hear my opinion on Power Rangers media, no matter how late it comes, so enjoy. Not quite 30 years ago, August 28th, 1993, a 10-year-old future Orange Ranger was watching TV, unaware of the massive change in his life that was about to drop. On that day, Fox Kids took a chance on a weird live-action kids show where you had spandex-clad superheroes fighting against rubber-suited monsters and then getting into big combining robots when those monsters got big. Even everyone involved in making the show didn't expect it to last more than a single season, ending on the episode Doomsday. If you don't recall, that's the one where the Rangers fought Cyclopsis and Lokar, and then at the end, Zordon weirdly gives the Rangers a chance to step down and live their own lives, even though the threat's not over from Rita Repulsa. However, that show, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, exploded in popularity, becoming the hottest property in kids' TV. It spawned a franchise that is alive and, for the most part, well, 30 years later. Power Rangers' anniversary history has been a little hit or miss, but for the most part pretty good. The 5th anniversary, Power Rangers in Space, gave us the dramatic, powerful finale episode, Countdown to Destruction, that spanned the entire franchise to that point. The 10th anniversary gave us Forever Red from Wild Force, where 10 former Red Rangers, more or less, teamed up to fight the Machine Empire and their Beetleborg generals. The 15th anniversary brought us Once a Ranger, which was severely held back by having to air during Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, but saw a veteran team of different colors from different eras uniting. The 20th anniversary was actually celebrated during the show's 21st season, 2014 Super Mega Force, and that show had plenty of issues on its own, as I told you in my very first season of reviewing Power Rangers, but at the very least you can say that the season was something of a love letter to the franchise. Continuing the unfortunate trend of anniversary years landing in the middle of pretty terrible seasons, the 25th anniversary landed during Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel and gave us Dimensions in Danger. Actually, a pretty good anniversary special, especially considering the season that it aired during. But here we are at the big 3-0, and for that 30th anniversary, Netflix isn't just dedicating a single episode of a season to it, or even theming a season around it. No. This time, we are directly honoring the team that started it all. Dragonzord, Mastodon, Pterodactyl, Triceratops, Saber-toothed Tiger, Tyrannosaurus. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 30 years later. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and if I was one of the MMPR, my Zord and powers would be based on the Deinonychus, a giant prehistoric alligator. It's been a while since I've been over Let's Playing games on my other channel, Orange Ranger Plays, but this demanded my attention here. Heroes, let's take a look at the Power Rangers 30th Anniversary Special, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can see all of our videos.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon so you get notified of whenever we post any brand new videos.
Right you. What he said was that if you'd like to support the channel in any way financially, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at OrangeRangerVideos. Right you.
The special starts off with a text screen that I really feel would have worked better as a moving crawl. One fateful day in 1993, evil sorceress Rita Repulsa escaped her space dumpster and attacked Earth. 5 teenagers with attitude had their lives changed forever when Zordon chose them to defend the planet. In the decades since, many more heroes have followed their legacy. The people of Earth rest easy, knowing their home is protected by Power Rangers. This is a simple little thing, but I actually really liked it overall. It makes the events of the original show feel factual, and also very quickly references that basically everything that happened since is in continuity. I even actually like the fact that they said Earth is protected by Power Rangers instead of the Power Rangers. This is a really splitting hairs type of difference, but to me, the Power Rangers should refer to a specific team, while Power Rangers refers to all of them in general.
What are you talking about?
You know, sometimes I'm not even sure. We then see Billy, and it's clear that we're starting off en medias res as he's a bit scuffed up and on the ground. He gets up and we hear that infamous cackle. Rita Repulsa, voiced by Barbara Goodson herself. Well, in this case, it's actually Robo-Rita, a robotic duplicate of Rita Repulsa. She asks Billy if he has any last words, and he says...
It's time for molecular transmutation.
Actually, that might have been kinda cute. No, of course he says, it's morphin' time, Triceratops. It's an instamorph, which I was a little upset about until I remembered that he was alone, and this is right at the start of the special. They're probably saving the big morphing sequence for later, so I was fine with that. As Billy fights, we get the credits for the special, which are just plain white text on the screen and don't really get in the way. Weirdly, the way Billy was fighting in this scene, and actually other fight scenes in the special, kind of reminded me of his Wild West ancestor, kind of a heavy-leaning punch style. What I really love is after just a couple of seconds of fighting the putties, Billy goes after Rita. You remember how we only saw Lord Zed in active combat once on the 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Well, that was one more time than we saw Rita Repulsa in active combat. Now, it might stretch believability a little bit to have a woman in a big giant dress keeping up with a Power Ranger, but this one is a robot, so...
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
After a few swings at Rita, which she dodges, the putties manage to knock Billy down. I will say, overall in the special, the putties seem to get a bit of an upgrade, and I'll probably bring this up a couple of more times. She blasts Billy back, and then asks him why he led her there. Did he just want to die outside in the sea breeze? And yes, she said the word die. And yes, the words die, dead, death, dying, killed are featured a lot in this special. And it was really, really refreshing. What am I, some kind of insane, blood-hungry person that wants to hear the Power Rangers talk about death and dying so much? No, of course not. It's just that it stretched believability that the Rangers, heroes fighting to defend the world from evil that would probably talk about death a lot, avoided those words so much and so strongly. Don't go out there without your powers. You could be destroyed. What, are the Rangers robots as well? I mean, besides those Eltar Turbo... Anyway, it makes the dialogue feel a lot more natural.
Get on with it!
Couldn't be a review of a Power Rangers anniversary special without an appearance by you, MPG. Glad to see you got my note about the new address, by the way. Anyway, the actual reason that he led her outside was to give the other Rangers time to teleport in. And alright, let's go ahead and get all of this out of the way right now. The first team that we see in this special fighting against Robo-Rita are the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Billy, Jason, Kimberly, Trini, Zach, and Tommy as the Green Ranger. Is it explained how they all have those powers? Not really. Tommy has used the Green Ranger powers several times since MMPR. Note, however, that he did not seem to be using his Master Morpher, but the original Dragon Coin and Gold Morpher. Jason used his powers in Forever Red and Grid Connection. Adam used the Black Ranger powers in Once a Ranger and could have always given the Morpher to Zach, especially considering what we see Adam doing later. But Kimberly? Trini? Besides what happened in Grid Connection, there's no real explanation of how they have their powers again. And from what I recall from Grid Connection, it wasn't really explained there either. We never see Kimberly, Jason, and of course Trini or Tommy unmorphed on screen. I will say as a reminder that this special was entirely filmed before Jason David Frank's unfortunate passing. He had declined being in it in order to focus on his own Power Rangers-like movie, Legend of the White Dragon. However, they did use voice clips from the show, which really helped with the believability. There were a couple of times where it sounded like it might have been impersonators instead, especially with Jason, which may have been a case of not being able to get Austin St. John to sign off on his voice being used in the special with the whole legal situation going on, but overall, it worked very well. Billy gets the other Rangers up to speed, with only Zach verbally answering him, of course. Rita orders the putties to destroy them all, and we get this good shot of the putties that shows us that for some reason they now seem to have kind of gray hoods that finish over their masks, whereas on the show, the masks were over the hood and it made it look a lot more seamless. I mean, hey, these are putties. Maybe it was a bad mold. The Rangers run at her in a classic superhero line. There's a giant explosion behind them, and the special's logo appears in the sky behind them. It's a really cool shot that breaks down the second that you think that Rita wasn't shooting at them and they were done morphing. So what caused the explosion? Jesus Christ, superstar. And the electric guitar delicacies of Ron Wasserman himself fill our ears as Go-Go Power Rangers plays over this fight. And hey, for once I can't complain about them using Go-Go Power Rangers during a fight scene, because it just makes this a theme song fight, which is awesome. From what I can tell, this is a brand new version of the song. However, this song has been remastered at least once, so it's really hard to say. And by the way, if you're watching this and happen to be involved in any way in the making of this possible, at this point, Power Rangers movie we're going to be getting eventually, please remember this. It is so much more effective to make a new version of this song rather than, I don't know, taking the one that was used in the last movie and just slapping it on your Zord sequence with no changes. Billy immediately goes after Rita again, which, after watching this a second time and knowing the entire story, actually makes a lot more sense. He flips over her staff and then elbows her in the face, Wolf Ranger style. It breaks off the lower part of her face and also pisses her off, but good. It reveals just some different robotic components, but she of course talks about her beauty and etc. She says it's time to get deadly serious, blasting Billy back once again. She then charges an attack, explaining that she's giving up some of the magical energy in her own body to charge up an attack that kills. See what I mean? Trini sees this, a dark red and black orb that Rita launches at Billy. She screams his name and then dives in front of him, taking the hit. It spins her around in the air and over the edge of a seaside cliff, where she then basically explodes. She's dead. Trini is gone. The Yellow Ranger has died in battle. It's just such a brave way to handle Trini's actress being gone. One thing I love about Rita throughout this special is that she does not give the Rangers time to grieve. Billy and Zach take off their helmets and look over the cliff in shock. And Rita takes the time to gloat, then telling the Rangers that she's headed to the Dark Dimension to plan her revenge. Just because we don't see the other Rangers' faces doesn't mean we don't feel the impact of this on them. Jason places a hand on Billy's shoulder as Kimberly collapses to her hands and knees. We move to Trini's house, where we have an amazing conversation between Zach and Billy. Trini has a young daughter, Min, and they've come to tell her that her mother is dead. They disagree on how to do this. Zach wants to come up with some kind of cover story, maybe Trini drowned. It would be a little tough to pitch that explanation without them having a body, but I guess those types of accidents do happen. But Billy insists that they have to tell Min the whole truth. Zach starts to talk about Zordon's rules, but Billy says if Zordon was here, like he hoped he was, he would say that Min needs to know the truth. Min doesn't have anyone else, Billy explains. It's always been just her and Trini. Okay, so I'm guessing Min's father died at a young age, or maybe that Min was adopted, though that's never really established, and it feels like in a special like this they would point that out directly. What this does mean is that that line is never explained. So how do you solve a debate like this, where both sides have really good points and could both be said to be right? You let fate decide. As Billy is yelling at Zach that Min needs to know that Rita Repulsa killed her mother, Min drops her books and book bag, having walked into the house returning from school. Considering the layout of the house and how far she had to walk in to get to them, I would presume that she heard them say that they were Power Rangers, but that's not really clear. After a moment of shock, she runs to her bedroom. 1 year later, as the screen says, we come back to the same house and now see that it's the Kwan and Taylor residence. We see Min practicing her mom's praying mantis fighting style and showcasing some impressive moves of her own. Inside, there's a little shrine, for lack of a better term, for Trini with some pictures of her, and Zach takes a look at Trini's morpher before putting it back in a box on the shelves. For the record, they never really established that that morpher wouldn't have been destroyed with Trini. It might have been nice to see it like blown off and landing on the cliff, but she comes inside having lost track of time. They're headed to the cemetery that day, meeting the others, presumably the other Rangers. She asks if he knows if they're any closer to finding Robo-Rita, and he says they can ask when they get there. We cut to the graveyard, and the two of them talk as they walk up towards the graves. The biggest thing that we learn is that Zach used to be a congressman, but isn't now. Where my mind instantly went on that is while Zach's interest in politics was never really reflected on the show itself, Zach did intern under a relative in Washington, D.C. in that honestly really terrible Boom Studios Power Rangers Back to School special. Interesting. But as they get closer to Trini's grave, they hear Dragonzord, Pterodactyl, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus. The other 4 Rangers have morphed because Robo-Rita has crashed the, well, memorial, not really a party. She's been busy in a year, reforging 2 of her monsters, Snizzard and Minotaur. Minotaur makes an honestly creepy comment about rows and rows of human graves being beautiful. The Rangers leap into action while Zack tells Min to stay put. She wants to help, but not being a Ranger, Zack tells her to stay safe. He does a leaping instamorph into battle, but there was one little thing I didn't like. No Mastodon! As Dr. K of RPM once said, the vocal call-out is a security feature for the Morpher. It's all the more cheesy if you don't have to do it. Another thing Robo-Rita was up to was making some kind of big machine, which she activates and tells Snizzard that she's ready. Snizzard shows off a new trick, able to grab the Rangers with his snakehead hands and sort of bite them, I guess, injecting a poison that freezes them. He can then fire out snakes that wrap around them and, honest to Zordon, turn them into Lightning Collection action figures, which Rita puts on the sides of the machine, and the machine starts, listen, they don't establish this until later, but let's just get it out of the way now, draining energy from them. Jason is captured first, followed by Tommy, and then Kimberly.
Well, gosh darn, ain't that convenient? I mean inconvenient.
Zack and Billy are blasted back directly by Rita, instead of sending Snizzard to go get them, because Barbara's read the script and realized that these are the two main characters of the special, besides someone we're going to see later. Billy realizes they're now completely overmatched and orders everyone into the Rad Bug 2 to retreat.
Run away! Run away! Run away!
Snizzard and Minotaur teleport around the car, blocking the road. But hey, this wouldn't be the Rad Bug 2 if it couldn't fly. And hey, Billy also made sure to turn on the windshield wipers to get rid of any bugs. They escape, with Rita teleporting away, and we get this really melancholy shot of Trainee's grave covered in flowers, which showcases that she died in 2022. That does call into question where the Dino Fury Rangers were when Rita's initial attack happened. We know where they are presently in terms of the special.
Space!
The three of them regroup at, well, now I guess Zack's house to try to figure out what the machine that Rita made does and how they can save the other Rangers. Min steps out of the house to say, "We gotta stop Rita." But of course, there is no we in this case. Zack makes very clear that this is Ranger business. Billy adds in that the best thing she can do right now is to stay safe and let them figure this out because they can't risk losing her too. Min says, those are pretty funny words, coming from the guy who caused all this, including her mother's death. She even says that she's glad that those words seem to have stung before stomping off back into the house. All Billy can say is that they need to get to Cranston Tech, his company, to pick up some scanners. Meanwhile, on the moon, Bandora Palace is still standing and even seems to have gotten a bit of a facelift with a shiny new sign. Rita now exposits that her machine is draining the Rangers' energy, and it seems to be creating something in the middle of a big circle. However, having been Z-waved tends to make one a little bit impatient, and Rita says this is going far too slowly. They need more Rangers. Snizzard says he can easily round the Rangers up for the slaughter, but Minotaur says they have to be found first. If a Ranger morphs, that's where he comes in. And Rita says that she knows exactly what draws Power Rangers out. Over to Cranston Tech, which is the command center. Sort of. It's a completely CG building that's made to look like the command center, which is on a beach with only a little tiny sand road leading up to it. I'd imagine that Billy pitched the remote location to employees as a really good place to work on top secret cutting edge technology. And I mean, hey, go have your lunch out on the beach. Alpha 9 says that this is going to be really tough, down 3 Rangers. He and Zack reunite, and when Alpha says that Min is a teenager with attitude, he readily agrees. Isn't that right, Billy?
How could this happen to me?
Yeah, Billy's not doing so hot after Min's cutting words. We get some more hinting as to what caused this, as Billy says Min was right. He is responsible for this. Zach says that Billy was just trying to do something good. But, Billy says, look what happened. He gestures to an energy tube, very similar to Zordon's, with a crack across the front of it. And then it is finally time for the flashback that explains what the heck is going on. Billy works with Alpha 8, who says they've detected a very powerful energy presence, one that's very familiar. Billy says it's him, or what's left of him after the Z-Wave. So yes, they are looking for Zordon. Billy tells Alpha that they can pull the particles of Zordon back together, and Alpha starts that process. Time out. I have a somewhat controversial take on this.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
The energy flows towards the tube, so that's clearly where they're meaning to put Zordon. And Zordon being alive would be an amazing boon to the people, well, of the universe, really. A wise sage to guide generations more of Power Rangers. But think about Zordon's existence. Trapped in a time warp, stuck in that tube, unable to move or experience life in any meaningful way. I feel like Zordon is more at peace with what he did, sacrificing himself. Now, I will say, based on what we're going to see, that Zordon wouldn't necessarily have been trapped in the tube, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. The particles gather into the tube, but very quickly go from blueberry to grape, and that's never good. I mean, I like grape, but in terms of good and evil, that's usually a bad sign. The dark energy escapes from the tube and flows into Alpha 8 through the crack in the tube that we saw earlier. That's what made it. Quickly taking over Alpha's systems and transforming him into Robo-Rita. She explains that it wasn't just Zordon's particles that were scattered across the universe. So Zordon's particles were scattered across the universe. I feel like that's a dangling plot thread for another time. When the evil was purged from Rita Repulsa, that was scattered across the universe too. And now Billy has brought her back together, and she's got a brand new robotic body to conquer with. Billy leads her outside while calling the other Rangers for help, and this leads us back to the start of the special. Back in the present, Alpha's scan detects monster energy. It's putties all over the world. But Billy says that they knew this day was coming, and they have been preparing for this. Alpha activates the Bandora Protocol, summoning all known teams of Power Rangers to get ready to defend their various regions of etc., etc. Here is list number 1 of nostalgia, as Alpha's list features Coral Harbor, Reefside, the Astro Megaship, Turtle Cove, Terra Venture, Osaka. Wait, Osaka?
Things that make you go,
Zach says if he remembers how this usually goes, they're about to have company. And indeed, Kat teleports in, having snuck away to the bathroom from her son JJ's karate camp. And Rocky teleports in as well, going on lunch from his firefighter duties. They both seem a little annoyed about another training exercise, until they realize this is not a drill. Rita Repulsa is back. The alert is a Buzz Blast live report about the putties attacking all over the world, including the juice bar in Angel Grove. Now, first of all, giving myself and a whole bunch of other people a great big called it for predicting that Jane mentioning that they were opening a Buzz Blast branch in Angel Grove at the end of Dino Fury would tie into this. However, that branch of Buzz Blast now being up and running calls the timing of everything into question once again. It very firmly establishes that this special takes place after Dino Fury Season 2, and again, that does explain why the Dino Fury Rangers aren't involved right now. They're busy being the Cosmic Fury Rangers in space. But that does call into question where exactly they were during that fight in 2022 when Trini died. Maybe Billy hadn't established this network of existing Power Rangers teams yet, but you would think that Solon should have detected something. Alpha tells them it took them months to get the Saber-Toothed Tiger Zord running without a Yellow Ranger to pilot it, and no, they do not explain where these Dinozords came from, since the original Dinozords were turned into the Thunderzords and then the Thunderzords were destroyed. But we saw the Dinozords in Grid Connection, so I guess those are just still around. Rocky thinks that means that with no Jason and no Kim, they have no Dino Megazord, but there's another way. Billy and Alpha experimented with secondary connections to the morphing grid and made basically backup Dino Power Coins. Cat and Rocky are given the Pterodactyl and T-Rex Dino Coins, which, remember, they never originally used. They used the Crane and Ape Ninja Coins. Zack mentioned Zordon's warning about the duplication of powers being dangerous, although really I think that refers to duplicating powers on a person versus just duplicating the powers themselves. And Cat does directly give us the too much pink energy is dangerous line, but they don't care. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. First things first, Billy tells them that there are injuries in Angel Grove, and Zack declares that it's morphin' time. This is where we get the brand new original morphing sequence, which echoes the old one really well. The only real change is that the lightning energy that was inside the morphers in the original version now escapes out from the sides a little bit, and I really kind of don't like that, actually. Also, Billy brings up his morpher while the others already just have it up, and that inconsistency just bugs me.
Moving right along.
They stick around in the command center a moment instead of teleporting right to the battle site, so Alpha can say that they love that, and go Power Rangers, and then they teleport away. It's a new effect, basically wrapped around in lightning with a blob of color, and then they fly off. To be honest, I really kind of wish they had just used the original effect just for that little nostalgic touch. The Rangers teleport into Angel Grove and make some cracks on the putties. Well, jokes, they'll be making actual cracks on them soon enough. Rocky shoots one with a blade blaster, and we see that these putties have kind of a video game thing going on. When they're destroyed, they turn into piles of pebbles that collapse to the ground, and then kind of fade away. As Linkara says, probably just leaving the refreshing smell of pine. We then learn Minotaur's special trick. He has a screen on his shield that can detect Power Rangers. When they morph, he's informed and can pinpoint their location. Rita sends them to get these Rangers that just morphed. So this is where we get a shot that we've seen in the trailer, and it's a really small thing, but it's something I've been waiting to comment on. We move through the Rangers in a line fighting putties to get to where Snizzard and Minotaur teleport in. Rocky does this downward thrusting punch, kind of like I mentioned with Billy and his Wild West ancestor, and to me it just reflects really excellent fight choreography and a focus on how Jason and Rocky are different kinds of fighters. Jason is a trained martial artist in karate, doing as many kicks as punches. Rocky is also a trained martial artist, don't get me wrong, but he really strikes me as more of a boxer, a pugilist, who just hits things with his hands. So now I'm counting down until the special gives us a really tightly focused, zoomed in shot of Rocky doing a kick. Cat seems to be the only one of the four that remembers that they came there to rescue people that were injured, getting the putties away from a crowd and leading the people to safety. This bothers me. Cat is being a hero, and that is a good thing, but it just feels a little weird having the only woman on the team right now being the one that's rescuing the people instead of fighting. Why not have Billy do that? The one that mentioned there were people injured in Angel Grove, and let Cat throw some hands. Rocky is somehow temporarily overpowered by the putties held in place so Snizzard can do his little snaky grab. But Billy sees this, diving to blast the putties, and then Rocky jumps up and over Snizzard, rotating back to do a kick.
I am inimitable, I am an original.
Which they then talk about him doing. See? I told you it was going to happen. The civilians at this site are secure, so the Rangers teleport to another attack site. The monsters, however, are not concerned, saying that they can just track the Rangers and teleport to that site as well. However, Alpha overheard this via satellite cameras and now knows about it. Now, you might be wondering where Bulk and Skull are. Unfortunately, the two of them are not featured in this special. However, they do get a sign cameo. I just really don't know about a sign cameo. It feels like this is exactly the kind of thing that those two actors love to do, so I don't know if they weren't available for this or the writers just decided they didn't need to actually write them in. However, the two of them have apparently opened a bulk food company. I think that's going a little far for the joke, but hey, it was good to see their faces. As the Rangers rescue more people, including a woman that a putty threw off the top of a building, Alpha broadcasts a warning not just to his Rangers, but all Power Rangers about the monster's tracking abilities. So this time, the Rangers power down before teleporting away. And this really makes sense if you think about it. The Rangers are more than capable of rescuing people from putties unmorphed, and now the monsters are unable to follow them. So, of course, knowing this, the Rangers teleport back to the command center.
I get it.
I don't get it.
Alpha detects activity on the moon, and the Rangers realize that if Rita's moved back home, the machine and their friends must be there as well. They then get a call from SPA agents, Adam and Aisha. The two of them are on a spaceship in the Sirius system and will be back on their side of the galaxy in 6 hours. And apparently being on their side of the galaxy means they're close enough to teleport. And that's not to mention that while there may be another star called Sirius in the Rangerverse, in the real world, the real star Sirius is only about 9 light years away from Earth. It is one of the closest stars to Earth besides the Sun, and it's actually slowly growing closer to the Earth over time. That was never a question. Now, I said the two were Space Patrol Alpha agents. They don't actually state what organization they're working for. I'm just going off the fact that the name tag seems very similar to Space Patrol Delta, and since there's no little divot in the middle of the last letter on the right side, I think it's an A instead of an R, thus it's Space Patrol Alpha, which makes a lot more sense because it's before Space Patrol Delta. They also mentioned that the stealth tech that Billy designed for them is coming in real handy in their fight against the Trubian Empire. I mean, I've got to agree, the outlook sure would be grum without it. Rocky stays very much in character, saying they should just go up to the moon and kick Rita's face in. I mean, Billy's already elbowed half of it in, so there's not that much more work to do on that. Kat says the monsters would get in their way, which I guess is a risk, but Power Rangers fight monsters, so unless they can draw them out and deal with them first. Billy wants to whip up a gadget because Billy always wants to whip up a gadget, but Kat says robots are made of metal, right? Not necessarily. Maybe they can use that. The satellite feed of people in danger randomly switches audio tracks to the juice bar, allowing Zach to hear that Min is struggling with the putties. What I really love about this is that Min is actually well-trained, strong, and athletically capable, kicking around some of the putties. She does a perfect quip, tells them they're in for a treat, and pulls out the morpher. It's morphin' time! Saber-toothed tiger! Except she doesn't press the button on the side, so nothing happens. Oops, Seriously, I thought that was the idea at first, that she didn't even know how to use the morpher, so it didn't work. Spoilers, that's not why she couldn't morph. She bravely fights anyway, but we start to see her struggle with these clay brains. She shakes her hand after a punch, since putties are made of hardened clay, basically rock. They have heavy hands and they hit like trucks. The most visceral moment, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this for very good reason, is that two of the putties pick Min up and slam her back against the bar counter, then throwing her on the floor. Ouch! That's when Zach and Rocky teleport in, Zach saying that messing with this place was a big mistake, and we got most of this fight as a preview for the special. Credit to Black Nerd for pointing this out, but hey, Rocky got to do a spinning kick without falling down, hurting his back, and getting replaced by a child. And yes, Zach busts out the hip-hop keto to Min's visible and verbal confusion. Wait a minute, she's been living with Zach for a year now. How has she never heard of hip-hop keto? They finish off the putties and Min applauds, but clearly she's in pretty big trouble. They teleport back to the command center, which amazes Min. But when Billy asks her not to mention anything about this to anybody else, she's clearly still upset with him and about everything going on. Zach says he needs to talk to her, having the others go and set up their plan. Alpha starts to introduce himself to Min, but very quickly leaves the room after detecting a vibe. Zach makes her give the morpher back, telling her that if he thought the morpher would ever get her in this much trouble, he never would have told her the truth. Or, you know, like I said earlier, he could have just locked the morpher up. Or, and this may seem just a little bit insensitive, maybe have already found another candidate for the Yellow Ranger. Thinking about this, I actually had a really interesting idea for another way this special could have gone. What if you bring Audrey Dubois back as a different character, not the Trini she originally played in the pilot, and have her be the candidate selected to be the Yellow Ranger? Even if you want to go the Min route, you can have her selected to be the Yellow Ranger, and then Min feels like it should be her because it's her mother's legacy, and there's friction between them and everything, and in the end, of course, Min gets the powers, but bringing Audrey back in on this would have been a nice, interesting way to touch on a very not well-known aspect of this franchise's lore. Zach explains that it was Billy that insisted that she know the truth, but now the world's in a real crisis, and here's Min trying to play Power Ranger. She doesn't get what's wrong with that. That's exactly what they all did, including her mother when they were her age. She wants to help. She wants to save the world. What's wrong with that? I love this scene so much. I try not to directly quote stuff that I'm reviewing a whole bunch, but here I absolutely have to. What do you think it means to be a ranger? He asks her. Kicking butt? Cute quips? Having fun? It's hard. Listen, Power Rangers has always been a show directed at children, but the fan base of the show has now aged a good bit, and this is one of those issues that I've thought about as a Power Rangers fan for a long time. When we were kids, those of us who started off with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers way back in 1993, if you asked us if we would be Power Rangers if given the chance, of course we would have said yes. Cool suits, amazing weapons, the Zords, fighting bad guys and saving the world. But it takes a special kind of person, heroes. It takes heroes. I don't want to wax overdramatic and draw a bad comparison here, but it really is similar in a fiction to reality sense to joining the military, being a paramedic, becoming a firefighter like Rocky. You are volunteering to put your life on the line to save others. One topic that this special addresses directly that Power Rangers has really avoided unless it had no other choice in the matter is death. Trini stepped up and accepted the responsibility of being a superhero to save the world, and she gave her life to do so. If you say that you would accept that responsibility if somebody handed you a morpher, you have to be ready to say that you would die, you would give your life to save the world. I don't think that's a question that you can answer in a moment. This is the meaning of Power Rangers. The things that make the show fun are not the end-all and be-all of the story. Kids in spandex fighting rubber-suited monsters is young people stepping up to make an extraordinary sacrifice against huge odds. This is the halfway point of the special, and I am already on page 10 of this script, so I have to move on. But this is the core meaning of this special to me. Min fights him back on this. She knows being a ranger is hard, but somebody has to fight the bad guys. Rita killed her mother, and she is happy to put her life on the line to bring her to justice for that. But Zack points out that that is not justice. That is revenge. When I was your age, my mentor told me that only monsters seek revenge. I don't really know what he's referring to. The way this is framed, it makes it sound like Zordon is the one that told him that, but I don't remember a particular episode in which that came up. I'm probably wrong about this, and if I am, you can tell me down there. You know who else's motivation is revenge? Rita. That's why she killed Trini. Of course, she was trying to kill Billy, but that's kind of besides the point. Revenge poisons the soul, and Zack wants better than that for her. Being a hero is selfless. You can't do it just to get what you want out of it. He ties this into taking care of her, and we learn that he actually resigned from Congress to take care of Min. Of course, I'm not sure why he needed to resign unless she wanted to stay in California. I mean, there are congressmen from California, but he probably didn't have anybody to stay there and take care of her while he was in Washington. Maybe she didn't want to do the jet setting.
Who knows? Not me. Who cares? Ditto mark.
This softens her, remembering how much he cares about her. So, Zack takes this opportunity to explain that this is also what Billy was trying to do. He tells her about Zordon, who sacrificed himself to save the universe so many years ago. Ever since then, Billy has been working to try to bring Zordon back. Then this happened, and now he's been working to try to make up for that. Min did not realize this. Zack makes her promise to stay in the command center while they pull off their plan. Out at a junkyard, Billy uses a techno-woozy what's-it to enhance a big magnet that's used to sort scrap, a description that Rocky says fits Minotaur and Snizzard perfectly. After that, Cat operates the crane to get the magnet into the air. Now, you might wonder why it's Cat that's doing this, but number one, why not? And number two, she's operating the crane. Get it? With everything set, they bait their trap morphing. It's an instamorph, but it's a slow one, if that makes sense. The energy comes out of the coins and flows around their bodies, forming the ranger suits, and it's just a nice morph. But it could have been better. I really, really wish I was able to give a vocal credit on this, but I just did a quick search on Twitter, and of course, now that I need it, I can't find it. But anyway, someone on Twitter made this fantastic little rework of this morphing sequence to make it a more uniquely MMPR instamorph, where the circle that says Power Rangers comes off of the morpher and opens up, forming the energy that forms around the Rangers, and then snaps back down to the morpher on the belt. It was really, really nice. I kind of wish it's what they had gone with if they had known to think of it. And again, I really wish I could give a credit. If I find it in editing, I will put the name and the account and the thing here. Meanwhile, on the moon, Rita has captured more Lightning Collection figures, and it's time for Nostalgia List, the full franchise version. She has got Ravi, Beast Morphers Blue, Ashley, in Space Yellow, Merrick, Wild Force Lunar Wolf, and the Phantom Ranger, which I feel like was only included in this to point out to fans directly in canon that no, Billy is not the Phantom Ranger. And she places up there Tanya, Zeo Yellow. Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. That was just the right side. On the left side, she's got Devin, Beast Morphers Red, and Nate, Beast Morphers Gold, Carlos in Space Black, Kai, Leo, and Damon, the blue, red, and green Lost Galaxy Rangers, and Connor and Trent, the red and white Dino Thunder Rangers. Isn't it a weird coincidence that all of the Rangers she's captured have had Lightning Collection figures? Folks, none of us were kidding about this. They actually used Lightning Collection figures.
Merchandising! Merchandising! where the real money from the movie is made.
Minotaur detects the 3 morphed Rangers and the 2 monsters head out. Long story short, the trap is sprung and the 2 monsters get stuck to the magnet. Back at the command center, Billy explains that the technobabble what's-it multimodal reflection sorting of the magnet keeps them from even teleporting away. Min is surprised that Billy's not talking about destroying the monsters, but Billy says that full-out destruction is hardly ever a strategy that works out. That's not exactly true for Power Rangers, but anyway! Remember that stealth technology that Adam mentioned? Time to bring that around. Alpha brings out these little stealth sticks. It's basically a button on top of a stick, single use only, a personal cloaking device. Zack makes Min promise to stay in the command center with Alpha, and the 4 of them are teleported to the moon. Promise breaking in 3, 2... Looking at the monsters, Min says that Zack told her what being a hero means, which is ironic because clearly she doesn't understand it yet. She grabs a stealth stick and the Yellow Ranger Morpher and cloaks, running away from Alpha. Outside, she, for whatever reason, turns the stealth stick off and throws it away. Single use on the throwing it away, but why did she turn it off? Trying to decide what car she should steal to perform her heroics. She finally decides on the Radbug 2, and Billy either left the keys in it or she hotwired it when we weren't looking because she drives it away. She can't figure out how to make it fly, but quickly comes across a flipped over car and a man screaming for help. I swear on Zordon's tube if there's a man trapped underneath that car somehow. But no, the man screams that his boyfriend went that way and the putties are chasing him, and Min decides to get in some hero practice first. She drives to that part of New Zealand where there always seems to be water on the ground, you know what I mean? It's not really a beach, but there's always just like puddles and mud and just like a thin layer of water constantly there. Anyway. She finds the man fending off putties with a crowbar, and I was wondering why the putties considered this man important or what they were even doing all the way out here, but anyway. She just drives the Radbug straight through the putties, splattering them on the windshield. Ooh, better turn on those windshield wipers to make sure you can see safely, and I dropped this hint earlier, the windshield wiper control is also the flight control. Of course, before we saw her pushing, pulling, and turning every single control on that dashboard, but I mean, hey, sometimes my windshield wipers come on for no reason. The man she saved reunites with his boyfriend, and the 2 of them look up at the girl flying away end of Grease style in the Radbug and decide that this apparently isn't a strange thing to see at all. Min gets to the junkyard telling the 2 monsters that she's gonna dish out some justice. And hey, she's got the Morpher open this time. And it still doesn't work. And then Rita shows up.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Rita digs into Min hard about her dead mom. Min attacks, at first precisely using her praying mantis style, but as Rita goads her and just dodges, Min gets more and more frustrated and eventually she's just throwing hands. Finally, Rita says playtime is over, knocking Min down and blasting. On the moon, the Rangers get into the palace and clear the putties away from the machine and start examining it. As we see the Rangers on the machine, another thought came to me. We don't see all of any single team on this machine, so where are the other Rangers? To cite an example, where are Zoe and Steel from Beast Morphers? I understand that their actors are not in this special, but can't we get some kind of story reason why they're not here trying to save their friends? In a moment that I think was actually even more touching than it was originally intended to be, Kat reaches slowly for the Green Ranger figure, but Billy pulls her hand back. Those snakes are still rotating around the little figures, and those snakes are directly connected to their Ranger energy. In classic MMPR fashion, destroy the monster, save the people. Zack is the only one to notice the big swirling ball of energy in the center of the machine, which seems to be forming a portal of some kind. Billy sees Rita's space dumpster in the portal and starts to put the pieces together. Rita is creating a time portal back back to the day she was freed from the dumpster, when everything started. Robo-Rita shows up to explain the rest, saying she'll go back in time and give her younger self knowledge of the future. And then, let's just turn that darkness notch another crank, she says that they'll do what people who have been criticizing the tropes in Power Rangers have said she should have done from the very beginning. Kill the teenage Rangers in their sleep before they ever became Power Rangers. Billy says he'll take out Snizzard and the others can focus on Minotaur, and I think his idea was just to blast the apple on Snizzard's head because he just pulls out a blade blaster and starts firing. Oh, by the way, the monsters captured Min. The unmorphed Rangers all run at the monsters, unmorphed for some reason, and they all dutifully get smacked aside. Rita slams Billy to the ground, taunting him about what a waste it was, Trini giving her life for him. She fires up that same dark red and black energy ball spell, and Min gets loose, running over and diving in front of Billy just like her mother did, taking the hit for him, slammed against a wall. The others crowd around her, Rita mocking them, but apparently still willing to give them the moment. She's limp, but what absolutely nobody seemed to notice is that the morpher in her jacket pocket is glowing. Her eyes suddenly snap open, and we get a little Trini clip show played on her eyeball. She gets up and pulls out the morpher, the tiger coin specifically glowing, and then we get that effect from other seasons where the energy seems to flow out and around and through her body that implies that the morpher has chosen her to be a ranger. Before, it was Zordon that chose them to be rangers, and the morphers and coins had no real sentience. They tell Min that she's legit now, even letting her lead the morph. It's another full sequence with the entire team this time. I get why they did the sequence earlier with the 4 Rangers, but I also would have understood saving the sequence for this moment. Billy says it's time for phase 3 of their plan, which Min figures out is just kicking all the monsters' butts. They pull out their power weapons and get great use out of them. Viscerally, too. Min stabs her power daggers into putties, for example. Zack gives Kat a clean shot at the machine, but Rita warns her, destroy the machine, hurt her friends, specifically pointing out Tommy. Billy agrees. They have to destroy Snizzard first. So, Rita tosses him out onto the lunar surface and, magic wand, make my monster glow! We get a brand new sequence for this, and I would have liked to see the wand fly a little bit longer, but they are on the moon, so I guess that makes sense. And I really like how the update makes it very clear why the monster grows from this. It inhales smoke that comes out of the ground. I adore this part. The Zord summoning sequence is painstakingly updated. Yes, in CGI for modern visuals. Coming out of their hiding places, running side by side, and even the Megazord formation sequence. There are 2 things, because I am a critic and a nitpicker. Number 1, I really would have liked if they had stayed in tank mode just a little bit, fired off a single shot or something. Number 2, I really missed Megazord sequence has been initiated and Megazord activated.
Megazord sequence has been initiated. Megazord activated.
So I'm going to geek out a little bit more here. Min asks how to drive the Zords, and Billy says to do what he does and she'll realize it's second nature to her. She grabs the power crystal, which sadly we don't see them forming, and noticing the coin on the top of it, I realize something. That's a direct hand-to-grid connection to the grid, to the Zords, and that is how the knowledge is conveyed. Being on the moon, and yes, this being CGI, made this a far more dynamic fight, able to jump around in low gravity, and the Megazord even gets to do a superhero landing. I have a weird little downside to the look of the Megazord that actually comes from a positive. The Megazord's lower section, where the legs connect up to the torso, looks weird. And then I realized that's because it's accurate. So we have had it confirmed that the CGI Zords were designed based on schematics that Hasbro sent over of the Zord Ascension Project Dino Megazord. So these Zords in CGI are based on the toys with some extra flourishes. The leg part looks that way because that's how the toys actually connect together. Before, you had a guy in a suit for the Megazord and you had to leave some leeway on it being human-shaped. So it looks a little weird, but I actually support it. And oh yes, a moment that multiple people have pointed out, a line that will go down in history with, "It's time to can this fish," and others like it. Billy. William Cranston says, "Come on, you big lizard, come catch these hands."
All right, you big lizard, come catch these hands.
The Megazord headbutts Snizzard. Come catch this head, I guess? I love this sword fight and the fact that they gave time and focus to it. And then right to another very visceral moment. Back down in the palace, Zack knocks Minotaur's shield away, and then Rocky leaps into the air and stabs his sword down directly into Minotaur's chest, which makes it go a kaploti. Even Kat has to observe how hardcore that was. Rocky checks in on the Zord fight and Billy says they've got seats for him up there. They teleport in and Kat cannot help but comment how much she's been looking forward to this. She never got to pilot the Pterodactyl Zord. And yes, by the way, it's a brand new cockpit. It's a little more circular than the old one, but still conveys the overall shape. And it's basically solid white instead of darker colors like the old days. You can't keep a bad robot down, so Rita reactivates and starts heading for the machine. Meanwhile, Snizzard gets a second wind and knocks the Megazord down. Snizzard used Tail Whip, and it was very effective. The machine fully charges, and the portal opens to that fateful moment, the Rangers seeing it from the Megazord. Billy gets the Megazord on its feet and summons the Mega Power Sword. I remembered it just being called the Power Sword, but I looked it up and there was at least one clip where they did call it the Mega Power Sword, so hey. I kind of found myself wishing for that goofy moment from the original show where the Megazord's hands would suddenly shrink as it picked up the sword and then cutting away to it holding the sword and the hands were big again. But the CGI allows the big hands to open and close, so oh well. As Rita sees her dumpster opened all those years ago, the Rangers activate their slashing finisher, the Megazord raising the Power Sword to the sky. But instead of that familiar slash we all know and love, the Megazord actually leaps over Snizzard and stabs backwards, finishing it a different way. Teleporting back to the palace, Min tells Rita to hush up now, pinning her shoulders to the banister with her daggers. Kat shoots the machine, blowing it up, and closing the portal. Zack turns his axe around to gun mode, says, "This is for Trini," and blasts her. The zoom up to her face, making it very clear that Zack shot her right in her robot face. Time for the wrap-up. Aisha and Adam have arrived at Earth and are going to take all of the affected Rangers to Aquitar to get fixed up. Adam asks if Billy's going to come along. Sestria has been saying that she misses him. Ooh. But he says he has to wrap some things up with his company before going out on more adventures. Hint, hint. Kat needs to get back to JJ, not to mention explaining to JJ where the heck Tommy is. Rocky needs a new lunch because Alpha tossed out his noodles, and the Tiny Rangers need help, so it's time for everybody to go. Very nice moment as Aisha tells Min that she's glad the Saber-Toothed Tiger legacy is in good hands. Billy, Zack, and Min talk at the juice bar. Tongue-in-cheek joke from Billy about it seeming smaller because the set is actually smaller than the original. Zack goes to get everyone smoothies, giving Billy and Min a chance to talk. She says that she'll miss him while he's out in space and apologizes for all the cruel things she said before. When Min says that she protected Billy because she considers him family, he tries to ground her for stealing the rad bug. Min explains the little clip show that she got about Trini as memories delivered by the Morpher. Billy looks over the Morpher and says it seems to be fine, but the grid is full of possibilities, so maybe Zordon is still out there. We know that Lord Zed is still out there, so anything's possible, right? Zack and Billy remember what a good friend Trini was, Billy remembering the time that Trini overcame her fear of heights to save him, and the special ends with them telling Min all sorts of Ranger stories about her mom. The special ends with Kimberly's song Down the Road and a special dedication to Twee Trang and Jason David Frank. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. The credits begin with basically an opening sequence for the special done in the style of the original show. A little random, but it was a nice touch. Having watched this special twice, it's an experience. It's that feeling, well, you know what? Let's just flip the coins. 30th Anniversary Special. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Once and Always. Pros, a wonderfully written story, great performances from actors old and new, and hints to more down the road. Cons needed to be placed more definitively in the show's world, a slight overfocus on the toys, and Cat and Rocky needed more focus. You know, when I watched this the first time, my eyes were filled with stars, and I boldly declared on Twitter that this was getting a 5 out of 5. Which is why watching something for review twice is always a good idea. On the second watch, I was still awed, but found enough little things that I wish had been done a little bit better. Once and Always gets 4.5 power coins out of 5. When writing a full-on anniversary special for a show like this 30 years down the road, there's such a thin line between satisfying the older fan base and writing something schlocky, overstuffed with references, no story of its own, let's just get together 30 years later and do what we did before. This story walks that line. For being written by the show's current writers, this really felt like a two-part episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, just grown up a little bit. Not grimdark mature, still good for the kids, but not eye-rollingly cheesy for the grown-ups to be satisfied too. Let's start with our new performer. Charlie Kirsch shined as Min in a tough role. Tough, determined, fierce, but also scared, hurt, and vulnerable. She had this fascinating arc in this about having to move past revenge that wasn't over the first time she was talked to about it. She had to hear it from multiple people that she respected and experience it for herself to truly understand it. And she portrayed all of that amazingly. Voice work. Richard Horowitz has been missed terribly as Alpha, and one tiny detail that I loved is that there was just a little bit of a vocal difference between the voices for Alpha 8 and Alpha 9. Age has introduced a little bit of gravel to his voice, but that's just another difference in the voice of Alpha 9. And Barbara Goodson stole this special. She embodied Rita with this dark, twisted, evil character, angry about the Z-Wave. Let me tell you another way I can describe Rita's character in this.
Murder, murder, murder!
And of course, the returning Rangers. There is a con related to who gets focus and who doesn't, but overall I still think the decision wasn't a bad thing. Of all the returning Rangers in this special, only David Yost and Walter Jones had never come back to Power Rangers before, so of course they get the focus, along with the newcomer Charlie Kirsch. But while they do get less focus, Steve Cardenas and Catherine Sutherland are still fairly well characterized in their Ranger characters and get their chances to shine, especially in Ranger voice work. And there's definitely some hints to things down the road, whether that's Billy talking about Zordon still being out there and his plans to go into space, the fact that we got this new character Min, and seriously, is this all she's going to be in? This actually feels very similar to this season of Star Trek Picard, a nostalgic trip with old beloved characters, with some new ones mixed in as well, and the undercurrent overall of, you want more of this, right? I'm doing the second con first because I want to do the first con third. Follow me? Anyway, the parts of this special fueled by the toys weren't really blatant, and Hasbro's focus on making collector quality toys does make them better props if those were the props used in the show. But the action figures as the captured Rangers was a touch on the nose, and while I praise the Megazord CGI, the fact that it's based on the toys makes this all kind of have a feeling of, you know, you can go out and buy this right now, right? Capitalism! I did like how Zach and Billy got the majority of the focus because they were Rangers that had never returned before, but it did leave Rocky and Kat feeling a little bit overshadowed. Rita could have cited her history with Kat, tried to win her over again. Rocky could have commented on the last time he wore red as a Ranger, he wasn't the leader, and this time he's still not the leader. Or maybe a feeling of wanting to rescue Jason because of some kind of mentoring relationship. I just wanted a little bit more out of them. I could say the same thing about Adam and Aisha, but I feel like those were more cameos based on available time. But okay, that first con, my biggest gripe. There was an effort to establish this in the Ranger timeline. As I said, Dino Fury's finale featured talking about setting up a Buzz Blast Angel Grove, and in this we see Annie doing a Buzz Blast report from Angel Grove. So this takes place after Dino Fury, which is perfect because it explains why the Dino Fury Rangers didn't come back and help, since they're now the Cosmic Fury Rangers up in space. But Trini died in 2022, when the Dino Fury Rangers were still on Earth. I'm not going as far as saying Trini would still be alive if the Dino Fury Rangers came to help, but where were they? Solon sensors would have detected Robo-Rita, the Putties, and all of that. There's rules between Ranger teams to leave it to the team involved with it. The Bandora Protocol calls in all of the Ranger teams. If that was established after this, there was clearly no rule forbidding it before. I'm not saying that I wanted this to be an MMPR Dino Fury team-up or anything like before where we had an episode of the currently running show as the anniversary. I feel like it works better as a special on its own. I'm just saying mention them. If you're going to focus on establishing that this is a shared universe, you should talk a little bit about the most recently active team. It couldn't have been that hard to at least voice cameo Solon. That's a suit and a voice cameo. By the by, in thinking about the Dino Fury Rangers, I remembered that they once went to Japan, which reminded me, Osaka? Overall, this was nearly everything we could have expected or hoped for from this kind of special, celebrating this amazing era of TV with an updated tone that's really what I want from Power Rangers. If you're talking about superheroes saving the world, even if it's for kids, don't be afraid to mention death. I definitely want to see more of these specials in the future. Rumors are the Power Rangers in Space cast wants to do one. And that, heroes, is going to wrap up this Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always review. Being completely honest and stepping out of character for a moment, I was planning to do a big story segment if I had filmed this back at the house where I was living before, where the Silver Skull basically used some kind of anti-reviewer energy bomb to make the house unsuitable to review in anymore, and I had to move on. I just severely underestimated how difficult moving is. It had been 11 years since I moved anywhere, so I was just left, you know, with having to make do here. I just got my room into a space where I'm, you know, okay with filming in it, and we'll go from there. This set is not finalized by any means. When I come back for Cosmic Fury reviews, which I am going to do, I am reviewing Cosmic Fury, so when that comes up, we'll see about that, but this might already look different. I actually have a space where I can use my green screen, so it could look like anything. We'll just have to see about that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking with the channel, as it hasn't had a lot of content in a while. I've really been focusing on Orange Ranger Plays, and I would really love it if you would go over there and take a look at that. I'm currently doing a Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Before that, I did an entire Let's Play of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers video game for Super Nintendo. I'm going to be doing more games as time goes on now that I'm starting to film again and getting my equipment out and everything. I'd appreciate you subscribing there, but also stay subscribed here because I will be doing Power Rangers content as it goes. Still have the uniform and everything. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this special. Did you like it? Did you somehow hate it? I thought it was really good, but let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to like the video while you're down there. You can support me financially on Patreon or Ko-fi, and check out my Teespring for Orange Ranger Videos merchandise like this somewhat faded now t-shirt, but it still looks pretty good. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Rita Repulsa escaped her space dumpster and attacked the Earth. Nope. After a few swings, Billy manages to... She looks at the TV too long. She asks Zach if they... Up ahead, the four other... Zach... That looks a lot like Zordons. And, yep. Yeah, Billy's not doing so hot after Min's cutting words. Yeah, Billy's not doing so hot after Min's cutting words. More hinting is what caused this. I mean, jokes. They'll probably be making actual cracks in them soon enough. And, he mainly hits things with his hands. And he does that, doesn't he? The two of them are now with Space Patrol Alpha, SPA, and are on a spaceship on phenomenon. I would say it is an A and not an R, as some people were... That's fun. My guess is because But when Billy asks her to keep it a secret, she's clearly... Zach tells her that if... And you asked us if we could... You can't do it just to get what you want out of it. This happened, and now he's been working to make it right. She didn't realize that. She finds the man fending beaming. In a touching moment, and boom, Rita gloats about making Snizzard grow, and ready for another badass moment? Rita could have cited her history with Kat.